The Daytona 24 Hours is back, and racing drivers from around the world are coming together for the start of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Now, we've already had the Roar before the 24, which is the qualifying for the event. And to discuss that and preview the race itself, joining me is Tom Toseland. Tom, just how good is it to have elite level endurance racing back?
Well, I think it's just good to have racing back in general. We've had that kind of December period off of motorsport, and this is really the first big event of the year in the motorsport world. Daytona, it really is. Even though we had Formula E last week, I really see Daytona as the event that kicks it off. It's when motorsports really starts to get going again, and it's such a great variety of cars as well. You've got the GTP, you've got the LMP2s, and then you've got the GT field as well. And this you've got the new cars in the GT field, so they're going to be so interesting to see how they deal with a 24-hour race. That's always the interesting thing about the new cars debuting at Daytona, because it's the first time you see them, but it's really a hard test for them to really take part in. That's why maybe Lamborghini haven't showed up to this event in the GTP class, but the Mustang, that's going to be great to watch, in the Ferraris as well. Fantastic. Then it's just going to be an absolutely amazing time, and I can't wait for a week's time when the lights go out.
AO Racing and Sebastian Priaulx took their first pole position in IMSA in the 77 Porsche, and if they can go on to win, it will be a truly popular result with the Rexy livery on that 77 car. In a bit of trivia, Priaulx is the Ginetta Junior Winter Series champion of 2016. Next in that class is Jack Hawksworth for the first of the Vasser Sullivan Lexuses in the 14 car, as the former IndyCar podium finisher finished in second position overall in the GTD category and was only 0.080 seconds off the pole time. Then it was the second of the Vasser Sullivan Lexuses with the 12 car driven by Parker Thompson, who was third overall and pole position in his class. And this gives the teams a bit of strategic freedom as they are both right next to one another in the field. Then as we look at the rest of the times, reigning Le Mans winners Alexandro Peregridi and James Collado will be taking part in this class with risky competition in the 62 Ferrari, so there'll be a strong pairing with both of them having 2 second place results in 2022 and 2019. Romain Grosjean is also a strong driver in this field as he's a 2-time GP2 Asia champion. His best result is 4th, and he will once again be with Lamborghini Iron Lynx. Plus you have IndyCar drivers, loads of them in this field, as you have Devlin Di Francesco, Alexander Rossi, James Hinchcliffe and Kyle Kirkwood. So it's a packed class, and it's anyone's game.
So that was a quick look at what happened during qualifying for the GTD class. Tom, let's now talk a little bit about that now. And let's start with the driver who is on or claim pole position, Sebastian Priaulx, a familiar face here on the channel, someone who you spoke to before Daytona last year. Just how excited were you to see him claim that pole position, and just what did you make of his performance the weekend?
It was great to see him on pole position. I think he was really consistent through that whole session, and it was a short session as well, only 8 minutes long in the end. So I think it was a real great effort from himself and AO Racing in that. I think he's a really underrated driver as well. I think he's 2021 Porsche Carrera Cup champion at North America. He's got 2 wins in British Formula 4 in a season that included Jack Doohan in that championship as well. So very quick competition as well. And then WEC has 2 wins and a pole position. So he's a driver that is very quick, and I think one of the more underrated in that field. So I think he's going to be one to look out for during the whole race and the whole of this year in IMSA. As well, AO Racing moving up to GTD Pro, I think have shown they have the pace now. They can take it to the big boys. And with only this their second year as a team, I think it's really excellent result for them. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how they do in the race, and yeah, really good qualifying from them.
And for me, another driver who stood out, there was many great performances in qualifying, but one that stood out for me was Catherine Legge, who will qualify third in class, 5th overall. An impressive weekend for her.
Yeah, very impressive weekend for her, as you say, qualifying for third in her class and 5th overall. Really good result for them. And also, they'd only Honda NSX in that field. So really, really good result for them. It kind of was foreshadowed with them going fastest in Friday's morning test session as well. So yeah, Catherine going really very quick and is in a good position to try and beat her previous best result of second place at the event in 2018. So Gradient Racing and herself will be hoping to go a couple better there and really move up the rankings in the field. So yeah, I think they are definitely a team to look out for in the race. And when you have these kind of like obviously Sean Creech Racing, they have the Ligier instead of the Orica. It's kind of like that in this class. You've got the NSX, and I think a lot of people will be supporting that car because it's just different. It's not like the new Mustangs. It's not like the Corvette. It's not like the Ferraris. It's there by itself. It's something unique, and I think it'll get a lot of support.
And it wasn't a straightforward session. There was a red flag. Talk me through this weird incident with a Porsche where it had a little bit of trouble coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah, no, it had a little bit of an issue coming out of the pit lane and ended up going into the left-hand barrier on pit exit, which isn't it's not a great way to start, really, is it? But the thing is, as well, it's better probably to do it now than to do it later in the week because, yes, it has affected their qualifying performance and they are going to be starting, right at the back of that field. But it does mean they have the whole of this week to kind of get the car back working, get the setup working, get the car fixed. It's not like they've done it in a practice session right before the event. So it's obviously not ideal, but it could have been worse.
So moving on to LMP2, pole position in that class, as already mentioned, did go to the LMP2 team of United Autosports in their 2 car, thanks to Ben Keating. A bit of fun trivia is that Zach Brown and Martin Brundle finished 4th in this event in 2011, driving for United Autosports. Into Europole by PR1 Mathiasen Racing can't be too unhappy with their result, with 4 in a row qualifying results on the pole position for this event being broken, but they still start in 2nd position, which is a good spot to be starting this event. Then the number 4 CrowdStrike car by APR will also be happy with their 3rd and will be hoping to repair the wounds from last year when they lost this race by 0.016 seconds after 24 hours of racing. Then if we look at the rest of the timings from this category in the qualifying session, Felipe Massa, he's a big name taking part with Riley Motorsports in their 74 car. In recent years, he's been racing in Brazilian stock cars and has 5 podiums over the last season. So he is a big name and he will be starting in 4th position. Multi-talented Scott McLaughlin will also be taking part in the class. Sadly for not sadly for Town Motorsports, but sadly at the back of the field in the LMP2 category. He finished 3rd last year in IndyCar and is a 3-time Aussie Supercar champion. Then you've got Kiffin Simpson at the age of 19 is an ELMS champion and has a move to Chip Ganassi for next year's IndyCar season. He'll be in the Dragon Speed 81 Orica as he starts 9th. Then look at the whole of Sean Creech Motorsport as they'll be in the lone Ligier, so they'll obviously get some support, being different from the rest of the Oricas.
So that's a recap of what happened during qualifying in the LMP2 category. Let's discuss Ben Keating, a driver who, for me, is very, very impressive, given the fact that he's not only racing in this category, but also in other, and it's something just quite often. Not too many drivers do it, which is very, very impressive. Tom, talk me through his weekend because it's been quite impressive.
Well, it has indeed. LMP2 class, it's the 5th year in a row that he's taken pole position in that class. And that was just insane. And it's a change of scenery for him as well. Going from PR1 Mathiasen Motorsport to United Autosport this year, change of scenery obviously hasn't changed his pace, even though United are a very quick team. Sometimes you see drivers struggling when they change teams, but not Ben Keating. He's just, for an driver, just incredible. He's teaming up with JDC Miller Motorsport as well in this race, and he'll be hoping for a return to how they were in 2022 when he pulled double duty with them in the DPI class and with PR1 Mathiasen Motorsports in the LMP2 class as well. When he was with them in the DPI class in 2022, they achieved a 3rd place finish overall, but currently sitting in 9th after qualifying is their Porsche, so they'll be hoping to move up the ranks if they want to repeat that result or even go better. So we'll see when it comes to the race.
And there was also a little bit of trouble for one of the AF course cars.
Yes, there was. The 88 car had a bit of an issue coming into turn 5, put on the brakes, probably maybe a little bit too much, and caused the car to do a full 180, which sent it backwards into the turn 5 outside wall. As it came back on the circuit, its rear wing looked something like this, with the right-hand side coming broken off, and a bit of a smoke bomb where the tyre had gone as well. So not ideal for them, but not as much damage to the Porsche we were talking about earlier.
At the top of the timing screens, it was the Wayland Cadillac racing machine, the red car, driven by Pipo Durrani, and it's a great time. It puts them on pole position. They're up 5 positions compared to where they started this race last year. Obviously, last year's champions, and with a giant driver lineup that also includes Jack Aitken, Formula Williams, Formula 1, and Tom Blomqvist, who will be racing in IndyCar next season. They are really strong contenders for this race. But then you've also got to consider the other really very strong driver lineup that in qualifying, the yellow Cadillac that was driven by Sebastian Bourdais. He's looking for his first overall win since 2014. And well, with drivers like Renger van der Zande, Scott Dixon and Alex Palou, just some of the most successful drivers in their disciplines, it's really, really going to stand a great chance. And that's probably one of the strongest lineups I've seen in a long time. Then in the number 7 car in qualifying, it was driven by ex-Sauber Formula 1 driver Felipe Nasr, and they were the last of the times in the 1 minute 32 second range. So it looks like they're in a strong position to be starting this race, and only down 1 position from last year, so still obviously evidently have the pace in that car to maybe even take the overall victory. Then here is your full qualifying results for the GTP category. With the drivers to watch, people who have to be on that list are Scott Dixon and Alex Palou in the 1 Cadillac, as they are both arguably some of the best drivers in IndyCar at the moment. Palou is a 2-time champion in that series, and Dixon is a 6-time champion, so really I do expect them to do really well in this race, and Scott is known for his very, very consistent driving, so I feel like they will get a result from this race. Jenson Button is known for his brilliant driving, and he's probably one of the most underrated Formula 1 champions of all time, but he's also handy in a GT car. He's the GT 500 Super GT champion in 2018, and he drove for SMP Racing in the WEC with a best result of 3rd in Shanghai, and this is quite impressive considering it was in the dominant Toyota era. The whole 58 Porsche team are ones to watch as well. Between them, they have 7 Le Mans victories, so keep an eye on them, even though they're starting at the back of their class. Colin Herr is also a top driver in the 40 Acura, linked to Formula 1 multiple times, and himself has 7 wins in IndyCar. Then coming to the more endurance side, Louis Delatraz has been extremely impressive in the LMP2/prototype scene. He'll be driving the 40 Acura. He has championships in the ELMS, WEC and Asian Le Mans Series in the LMP2 category, and 2 second place finishes in that class.
So, Tom, we know who is on pole position for the Daytona 24 Hours. Pipo Durrani taking that pole position. A great lap from him. Broke a record on the way. Just talk me through that amazing performance from him.
Well, yeah, it was a great performance. Obviously, very, very close field, so always impressive to take pole position. And while those Cadillacs do always look very quick, obviously, reigning champions have started how they ended last year at the top of the field. Yeah, and as you mentioned, they did beat the previous lap record that was held at the venue by Ollie Jarvis in the Mazda RT24P, which was slower by 1.029 seconds. And it in fact, every single car in the GTP field this year ended up beating that lap time. So just showing how much the cars have progressed just in 1 year, that they can all beat the previous lap record, with some of them being a bit slower compared to the overall pole position time as well. So yeah, it was a really good result for Action Express.
And there was one car that didn't make qualifying. That was, of course, the car that Neil Janney had an issue with before qualifying. Just tell me what happened there.
So coming into the King, they had a little bit of an issue where he came up on a slower Sebastian Bourdais, and when trying to avoid it, ended up spinning into the inside barrier, which caused a bit of damage to the car. And then in fact, even with some of the delays in the GTD session, wasn't able to actually get out. It will start at the back of the GTP field though, for safety reasons. Obviously, you can't really start that car in the main pack of the GTD because, well, that would be quite dangerous. But yeah, before the race, I think that team was they had a decent driver lineup, and I was probably going to be one of my kind of dark horses for the race. But I maybe starting at the back of the class now is going to be a bit of a challenge.
And looking at the times set by the teams that did actually make it out onto the track, there's only 3 that were sub 1 minute 33. Tom, do you think we could potentially see a split in the field where it's really just a 3-horse race for the race win and the podium's pretty much settled? Or do you think that once we get into a full 24-hour race, just about anything can happen and the field will bunch up?
I think the field will bunch up, to be fair. I think they're always under the safety car periods. They always kind of unlap themselves, so there'll always be that. And then, yeah, it's always, I think the endurance racing at the moment is just very close. So I think even with these pole margins being maybe a little bit, everyone a little bit separated, I do think it's always a close race with him. So you can never say who's going to win until maybe, well, actually, not even last minute of the race. It's always very, very close. So I don't believe it will be a separated field at all. I feel with safety car periods, there'll be teams that are inevitably going a lap behind, but then regaining laps. And I think it will just be, as always, a very close race. And we saw that last year. The Enquiries were very, very quick machines there. And obviously this time it's the Cadillacs are the quicker ones. So I think it'll be very close. But I think the interesting thing as well, and I was just kind of thinking about it as well, is that even with the new manufacturers like BMW and Porsche, we still find the cars dominating at Daytona are the old DPIs. You've got Acura, of obviously won in this event in the past few years, and we've got Cadillac who've won in this event in the last few years as well. So still shows the kind of older horses in this field know how to get it done.
So that's the serious part of the video over and done with. I think it's time to take a little tour of the circuit that the drivers will be racing on. So over to Tom on the sim rig.
So now as we come up towards the line, this is your kind of circuit review. I'm going to be showing you some of the circuit on this lap. Anyway, we're down into turn 1. This is where I think most drivers will be going for their overtakes on the restarts of the race. Coming off the oval and just trying to get as late on the brakes as possible to slip down the inside into that corner. A bit harder on the outside. Anyway, into turn 3. This is another, I think, overtaking opportunity. A little bit trickier with that later apex. Now as we come up towards the kink, obviously there was that famous accident a couple of years ago between Matteo Malocelli and Mimo Gidley in 2014. As now we come into turns 5, another overtaking opportunity. You can see a lot of cars getting overtaken here traffic-wise, and the GTs normally going to the inside as the GTP cars such as MP2s go around the outside. Then into turn 6 and 7 is where you rejoin the oval part of the circuit. And, well, yeah, another place where you do see a lot of overtaking of traffic with the GTPs trying to weave through the GTD competitors as we now come off of the oval onto the back stretch. And this is where you have to start thinking about, well, how am I going to approach the bus stop chicane when there's traffic, and, well, how are you going to approach it anyway, because these curves can be easily trick you out, as we've seen Nick Tandy went off there in qualifying last year, so you can easily unsettle the car and you can quite easily make a mistake. It's probably one of the most crashiest spots of the race around that corner. Anyway, we come around the second part of the oval onto the straight just before the final corner. You have to get a good run off of the bus stop chicane up to the line areas. In 2016 the Corvettes went too wide after 24 hours and we crossed the line. So that is your lap review.